30,000-mile Earthwalk across America, and a journey that sparked global conversations and climate change, mental health resilience, and community healing. And her voice has echoed on the world stage, from expanding a UN-endorsed women's conference into 100 plus countries to writing best-selling books like The Wildlife and Women Gone Wild, just to give you a little sense of who this woman is. As a yoga instructor and mental health specialist, she also brings a deeply personal lens to empowerment, wellness, and sustainability. And in today's conversation, we're going to explore the meeting point of root and throat chakras and everything in between, where grounded resilience meets authentic expression. And I'm so grateful to have you on here again today. Jenny, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Angela. This is a huge pleasure and honor. Been following you and, friends with you from a distance for a long time. And so I'm super stoked to dive into today's conversation.
Likewise. And just to give you guys a little background on how we met, we've never actually physically met in person, but we aligned just through our humanitarian and global initiatives back in lockdowns. I believe it was 2020, actually, when we officially met, like on Zoom. And so since then, we've been following each other, and she really does do all of these things that I was saying. And she's actually going on an Earthwalk, which I mentioned, in 2 days. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I recall fondly when we met, through some mutual contacts. I had just finished my walk across America, and, we were aligning on climate action and nutrition, right? And you do a lot, you're a chef, and, we both have this spiritual lens to climate change as much as the science lens, I think, is, a holistic perspective. And my Earth walks, which I've now done a walk across America, I've done a walk on the Appalachian Trail, also in the US. I've done Bermuda, walk across Bermuda, across Crete, Greece, and now I'm going to be going into the Swiss, Italian, and French Alps, over 100 miles. And the sort of purpose behind these Earth walks is to reconnect to Mother Nature, to Mother Earth, so that we can view some of these social and environmental problems from a more holistic and grounded place. Because while the science does matter, there's a lot of science, natural wisdom right here in our bodies. And that's what the Earthwalk is a call to act right here at home.
Yeah. So what did that teach you about human strength and connection?
Well, I think one of the most important lessons that I had learned on the Earthwalk was that human beings are innately trusting. Actually, they innately want to connect. We really are wired for connection, and we will seek connection sometimes in the most, weird ways that we might not even understand, because it's a basic need, just like food, clothing, and shelter. And Brene Brown is the one who I learned this from, that the fourth basic need is connection.
It actually, it's a root chakra.
Yeah. So that was, I think, very, a big, aha moment for me. I think that when I was isolated, I also found that, when I didn't have that human connection, sort of like if you've ever watched the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, you can sort of connect to nature, and reestablish that with spirit. I mean, that's at the ground level. Where survival is really coming from is your connection to source, or God, or the universe, or whatever you want to name it. And then through that energy is where we establish brighter, better, stronger, more trusting, more loving, more resilient connections with other human beings and other life force energies like plants and things like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's actually what happens to people when they do Vipassana, which is a type of meditation. I'm sure you might be familiar with it, but it's a silent meditation. And so you're essentially cut off from communication with people. And that's when people start actually paying attention to the life around them. People start like communicating with ants or feeding them, and it's just really funny. And it's beautiful, actually, how that can really bring that connection about.
Have you ever done a long silent meditation? I know when I was walking across America, Mike Posner was also, and he was talking about doing a 10-day silent retreat. I've never done a silent retreat, but I think
Yeah,
that's beneficial.
I did actually. I did a 10-day. Vipassana is 10 days usually. Like you have to start off with the 10 days. And then if you have done it more than once, or well, done it once at least, then you can do like shorter Vipassanas, because 10 days is kind of difficult for a lot of people to get off and organize. But yeah, it was a really rewarding experience. It definitely helped me deepen my meditation practice, and it's pretty intense. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start praying, and you're like half asleep and you're meditating. So I do recommend it. It was a really transformative experience, but not my favorite type of meditation, to say.
Definitely on my bucket list to add to things in my wheelhouse.
I do recommend it. I did mine in Bogor, Indonesia. So it was the rainiest city in the world. And it just, the rain intensified everything, because we're trying to be silent and it was just pouring down, and we're trying to just meditate in peace. And yeah, it was really good. So if you do get the opportunity, I do recommend it.
Cool. What an experience.
Yeah. So how do you stay grounded in purpose when everything around you has been changing? I know you're an advocate for, women's empowerment and stuff. Let's just a testimony to your resilience. What do you do to stay grounded in your purpose when doing all that?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I want to just first put a disclaimer out there that even being a practitioner of yoga and a deep advocate for this inner alignment and inner work and connection with nature and compassion and empathy and these values, I wasn't always this way. So I found this practice because I was experiencing severe traumas, severe chaos, mental health conditions, anger issues, rage issues, connection, problems in my relationships, problems with my family. And a lot of people underestimate the importance of really bridging the gap of seeing yourself as a whole person, of seeing yourself as being both wounded and able to heal, to self-heal. And so giving myself grace in the time it's taken to incorporate this practice into my life has been one of the major things that's kept me grounded, because I've struggled with perfection my whole life. So putting myself like when I first started yoga, I felt like I had to be the best at all the postures, and I had to meditate the best, and I had to be the most connected and the most grateful and the best of everything. And that's completely the opposite of what this practice really is about. So how I stay grounded now is really through, it's going to sound crazy, but it's really through inner humor. I really allow myself the ability to laugh at myself, to laugh at my failures, to laugh, to laugh at the ways that I've tried and failed, that I've tried to control things and it's blown up in my face. I stay grounded through looking at myself with a lens of self-compassion.
That's beautiful. It's good that you mentioned that as well, because I also have been on a journey of healing and grounding over years. I was also very ungrounded and anxious without even realizing it. And we're so lucky because we do have these tools that we can use, whether it's breath work, whether it's movement, whether it's just, coming into that state of self-love. And that's actually what Feed Your Chakras is all about, is like coming into that and really grounding into your purpose.
Well, one of the reasons why I was really drawn to Feed Your Chakras, which, by the way, I looked at the website and your book cover is like amazing. Oh my God, I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's going to be a beautiful book.
I'm sure. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Food was a big thing for me because I grew up, listen, my parents took very good care of me. It's not that, but I was always on the go, always doing a million things, and I was just didn't really eat very well, and changing my mindfulness around food, even before I changed the actual food. First, it was changing my relationship with food. That was
Mhm.
that was before changing the foods. It was changing my like, why am I eating? Right? Am I eating because I'm hungry? Am I eating because I'm bored? Because I'm anxious? Because I need nutrients?
Such a habit. Yeah.
Habit, right? Like, there's so many reasons why we eat. Just like there's
Mhm.
so many reasons why we engage in sex. Like we do
Mhm.
these root chakra things from a variety of different reasons. So it's first to be mindful. Why am I doing it? What's the purpose?
Mhm.
And then to feed myself nutritious foods. And now I've expanded, my mindfulness with food to my mindfulness with products, right? So what I put on my skin, what I have in my home, it has been a journey of just surrounding myself with more, yeah, pure energy. And I think Feed Your Chakras is just like right in line with that. And I'm excited to see the book.
Yeah, I'm actually publishing the prequel to it, which was unexpected, like right now. So once that's out, then the Feed Your Chakras Root Chakra book is going to follow quickly. But as we mentioned last week when we couldn't go online, that was completely a channel download. But now I see why it has to come first. So stay tuned.
So is the book going to be 7 different books, one for each chakra, or?
For Feed Your Chakras, yeah, it's a series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a series with integrative healing methods and recipes and lots of different stuff to help people unblock their untapped potential, because every chakra carries its own wisdom and energies, and basically everything's a frequency. So it's on that premise.
And do you find that most people you talk to know about the chakra system? Because I only found out about it when I was like 26, and I thought to myself, gosh, it would have been nice to know this in school.
Yeah, I feel it's kind of a mix. It really depends because I'm in so many different networks and niches, but most of the people know what they are, or at least have an idea. So I feel like it's a really good time because it's in people's, you know, knowledge base at least, or they're interested or they're curious. There's a few people where I literally have to take them back and be like, this is what it is. But not that many. So.
Well, do you want to just give a brief, like 1 or 2 minute description, just in case anyone's watching, anyone that I had asked to join that might not know, like, what the chakra system is?
Sure. Okay. So the chakra system, well, we have over 100 chakras in our bodies, our energetic field, but they represent energy centers. And the 7 major chakras, which is the one that we're kind of focusing on today and the most commonly known about, are it's from root to crown, and they basically run along the spine right up to the top of your head. And so the root chakra is located in between the legs. It's pointing down towards the earth. It's actually governed by the earth's energy. And it's the root chakra which governs our sense of connection, our belonging, our ancestral lineage, and our basic survival needs. So everything that we need to survive. And that's why it's connected to family and connection, because, back in the day, we needed our tribe to survive. So everything that's governed kind of by that, even your finances, because we need them for security, financial security, is governed by the root chakra. So an imbalance in that could show up as you having financial insecurities, or perhaps you have anxiety in relationships, all sorts of different things. So I kind of identify that in the book. Sacral chakra is just underneath the navel. It is represented by the color orange. Root is red, for anyone that missed that. And the sacral is governed by our sense of creativity. It's our pleasure center. It's actually the sex chakra, even though root chakra is about reproduction, because that's survival. This is the pleasure of sensuality and of that connection. And it's all about our emotions, and it's governed by the water element, which is, fluid. And this is where we get into our flow. And so to be really balanced in this is when you're able to express yourself creatively or express your emotions easily without harboring, guilt or shame or all those things that could potentially block this energy from fully expressing itself. And then we have the solar plexus, which is just around here in the diaphragm. It's our yellow chakra, and it's governed by the fire element, and it is our power center. So it's our ego. It's our ability to manifest in this material world. It's by believing you're capable, because you can have all the talent in the world, you know this, but if you don't believe in yourself, you're really not going to accomplish that much. So this, when it's imbalanced, it looks like you advocating for yourself, you hold yourself accountable, you make things happen. Whereas if you're imbalanced in this, it could be that you have very low self-esteem, or you're timid and you're afraid to, be seen, or whatever, however it shows up. And that could be affected by, external circumstances. Perhaps you're bullied, whatever. And then we have the heart space. So the heart space is anahata, and that literally translates to unstruck, which is the power of this chakra. And this is actually governed by the element of air, and it's associated with our lungs, which we breathe in oxygen. And it's the green chakra. We also have the higher heart chakra, which is pink. But the heart chakra is our sense of love, of connection in that loving essence. It is our ability to forgive, to be compassionate and forgiving, not only to others, but also to ourselves, because in doing so, that strengthens the heart chakra. Because if something happens and it breaks our heart, whether it's a person, whether it's people, whether it's a situation, it's that ability to come from it and understand and forgive, so that we're not harboring that negative charge. And it's the fourth dimension, which helps us transcend into our higher self. Most people are operating in the lower material world. And when we come into here and we can act in alignment with our higher self and engage in all of these things, our sensuality, being grounded from a place of love, that's when we can really self-actualize. And so that's when you come into your higher self. And then we have the throat chakra, which, go figure, it's communication, it's expression, it's truth, authenticity. So not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. And it's blue, like clear blue, clarity, truth, right? Authenticity. So not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. And it's blue, like clear blue, clarity, truth, right? And it's also listening. So the element for this is sound. And sound is actually, or vibration, frequency is actually now being used to treat cancers. It's very powerful. And then we have the third eye, which you can imagine is our imagination, it's our insight, it's our intuition, our inner wisdom, and it is indigo blue. That's why they call them indigo childs. And so if you're open to this, you can receive downloads. You can be like, oh my gosh, I know this. I don't know why I know it, but that's your intuition. And we all have it. We just have often lost our connection to it. And then we have the crown chakra, which is located at the top of your head, where a crown we would be put. And it's actually the soft spot on our head when we're born. And it's where the soul leaves the body. So it's the portal directly connecting us to source. So, and that's purple, but like violets, or it's white. There you go.
I love that. I think that was so important, because I'm going to share this video in many places, and I want everybody to understand.
May have been a little over 2 minutes, but I get passionate.
Beautifully done, and a great.
Thank you.
I know them, but I would love to see us be more, not us, I mean us too, but everyone to be more literate in these subject matters, because I find that one of the ways, or one of the blockages or the limitations that I'm working on kind of just gently unpacking and surfacing is, how do we create the literacy that's necessary in order to embody and activate and execute some of these concepts? Because a lot of people really are hungry for healing. They're hungry for healing.
Everybody is.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't know it.
Even the healers, especially the healers.
especially the healers. That's true. Totally true. And it's just sometimes a matter of being able to speak the same language, because it needs to be accessible.
Yeah. that's why I've been like so guided to this book. It's a new thing. Like it's been in me for so long, and I had so many of my own blocks and had to work through my own stuff. And now that it's coming and I'm doing what I'm being guided to do so strongly, it's everything. It's like as you walk the path the path appears.
Yeah.
So I'm just using it because I actually can really translate a lot of that wisdom into kind of common dialogue. So that's why I feel that I'm supposed to share this and do it in a way that's relatable to anybody, whether you're into spirituality or you're a hypocrite and you're into science, because, I believe science and spirituality share common ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Woo, I'm all like passionate now. So actually, this wasn't going to be a question, but since we're just on this topic, you mentioned to me last week when we had technical difficulties that you're discovering the chakra system actually changed your life. Do you want to just elaborate on that before we move on?
Yeah, and I think it goes a little bit to what I was just saying, which is that, for someone who was very educated, I have a master's degree from a top tier school in the United States. I found myself at a loss for the ability to describe some of my, what I would look back and say were natural gifts, but at the time felt like natural burdens and, like things that I didn't, superpowers that I didn't know were superpowers. And so therefore they were coming up in toxic ways, right? Because if a superpower isn't, like let's say your third eye, for example, if it's not contained, if it's not practiced, if it's not disciplined, it can lead to, to this chaos,
It can become blocked or imbalanced.
Yes, blocked or imbalanced, exactly. And I think for me, I never really struggled too much with blockages. I struggled a lot with imbalances. I've had just really a lot of imbalances. And so discovering the chakra system, if you think just like physically I'm moving my arms, like my imbalance all the way out here and all the way over here, discovering the chakra system made it so that everything had to kind of come, I had a visualization, a visual representation of what I was actually working toward. And as I was doing the yoga postures, it started to feel less just like a physical practice and much more of an emotional, mental, spiritual, integrated practice. And so the chakras gave me that education.
The framework.
It was actually a framework, an actual, tool.
Yeah.
To see myself with more clarity, number one, to activate my superpowers and my natural gifts, to monitor the development of my superpowers and gifts in a way that made sense, and then to share my experiences with my superpowers and gifts with others in a framework that didn't make it about me, but made it about humanity and healing.
So what would you say your superpower is, or superpowers?
I'm a seer. So seer, S-E-E-R, seer. And so I definitely, it's a little bit of a psychic ability, although it's very random, like very randomized. I don't see people's future or anything like that. I see more of the entire periphery of what's going on in any given situation on many levels that people aren't able to see. In terms of historically, like I get knowledge taps into people's lineages and history, as well as their, community realities, as well as the psychological elements, the physical elements. And I get these very deep hits about where energy needs to be focused, where solutions developed. And it's contributed to two things. It's contributed to my visionary tendencies, and it's also contributed to my ability to help guide people, because we don't heal others, but the self-healing process, but to help guide people to see things about themselves if they want to, if they're open to. I can help them see things about themselves that can activate their own healing journey.
Beautiful. We definitely do have a lot in common. Okay, so you are working on Earth schools, which is so funny because last night I randomly came across this image that I made for you years ago of your Earth schools. I don't know if you remember it.
I know, I definitely do.
Okay, it's so funny. I'll put it up in the replay. So you're working on Earth schools and sustainability projects. What role do you see education in playing and building a new foundation for future generations and new Earth?
Yeah, I mean, education, it is going to play one of the most important roles, but I do think that we need to reframe what we see as education. So I come from a family of educators. My mom was a teacher and then a principal of a school.
My mom was a teacher too, isn't that right?
Yeah, my grandmother was a teacher. My father was a teacher. So, I come from a family of teachers, and I grew up in the school system with my teachers, with my parents who were teachers, on take your daughter to work day and whatnot. So education has always been like in my, periphery. I later, as I was just talking about with how the chakra system changed my life, I later found out that education comes in so many forms. And the way we learn is really important. And so I'm really focused on, with the Earth School, experiential education. And I use the word experiential because I also like kinesthetic, but kinesthetic means like physical learning. Experiential doesn't have to be kinesthetic. Experiential can also be auditory. It can also be, any of the senses, taste, through even just like a walkabout, in silence, through sound healing, whatever. All of these things are experiential. So Earth School is very much about getting like right in there, and learning about whatever it is. Did you have a question?
No, just smiling because it's so funny, because that is Feed Your Chakras. It's on the premise that everybody has different learning styles and preferences and things that resonate with them, but we're all affected by the chakras, right? And so to break it down in ways that are attainable or desirable is really the mission of what I'm trying to accomplish in the book. So it's just like, wow. So you were speaking my language.
I like the color scheme of the chakras too. It sounds simple. You can go through what the chakras are, but let's say for a 4-year-old kid, like a 4-year-old kid can understand the colors.
Yeah.
And eat the rainbow, this very simple.
That's actually, I have a food course called Eat the Rainbow.
Yeah. So that's what, I've been telling people forever, is that's how I learned to eat well. And it's so simple, it doesn't really involve calorie counting or all these different things. I'm not knocking any other, disciplines.
Yeah. But you get this full spectrum of phytonutrients when you eat the rainbow. And those phytonutrients are always left out of the food labels, which is what we've been programmed to think that we need to put in our bodies.
Exactly. So, and this is why I also am very interested in edutainment and the entertainment side of things, is because, as you said, we've been programmed through the school system, through the the TV, through ads and media, and so media and television has the power to change that. And we can reprogram. Like,
we have to unlearn everything in order to come into our true essence.
Yeah. So I think that education is going to be key, but it's about not just about education. It's about what kind of education.
Yeah.
What's the quality of that education?
And what's the intention?
Yeah. And I do try my best not to yuck other people's yum. So even if I believe,
like that,
yeah, because I had some friends when I was in college who I guess maybe were more evolved than I was at that time, who would try to help me to see some of these things, and I was like just not ready for it. And that's where this like, don't yuck my yum. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing. And could I have maybe learned from them at that time? Yes. But I try not to yuck people's yum. Like, if they're really loving to eat their things or do their things or whatever, everybody has their own needs. I try my best, and I'm not perfect at it. I do sometimes yuck people's yums, but I try. My aim, my goal is to invite people into seeing how I'm experiencing certain new foods, certain new products, certain new things that are working for me, and to see the benefits of it, to see the anti-aging that's going on, to see the amount of energy that I have to do everything that I do. I mean, people want to say a lot about my life, but I'm like, most of the people around me don't have the energy to do what I do. So, I think that the results speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's actually like, when I see everything she's up to, I'm like, how does she do it all? Yeah. Okay, so you are a best-selling author, and you've spoken openly about abuse and the importance of giving voice, especially in times where it's difficult to express truth. What gave you the courage to speak out and to speak up for others?
I grew up in a family where I saw my mother being abused in various scenarios by various men in her life. I have spoken to hundreds of women and men, but mostly women, who have expressed their experiences with sexual, physical, emotional, psychological abuse. And I've found that the current system hurts everybody. That's really what I've found. And it's been really challenging because my perpetrators have been men. Mm-hmm. And so I sometimes have to really figure out the right way to advocate for a system that helps everybody when I'm so wounded by the male gender. And so I'm trying to switch the way I do my advocacy and speak more from a place, again, of not like yucking men, even though I feel that wound wants to just come through and say, "Ah, you're all terrible." It's so hard. It's so challenging because this wound is so deep. Mm-hmm. But I found the courage to do it because I just found that when I stood my ground, I felt less anxious. That's what gave me the courage. I found that when I started to speak my truth, the anxiety lowered, the perceptive, intuitive superpowers increased. And that's how I knew I was on the right path. Not because I was helping other women, although if I can help other women, that's wonderful. And I would love to help other people and help other women. But that's not what gave me the courage to speak my truth. What gave me the courage to speak my truth was that I felt more grounded. I felt more perceptive, and I felt more at peace and more fearless when my truth was being spoken. And that rolled into more opportunities, and more people coming forward to say thank you for speaking up. So I knew it was working.
Yeah, it's there's something so magnetic about authenticity, and when you come from that state of just wanting to express truth without worrying about what other people think, it's just super empowering, and it ripples out elsewhere. So you've been part of expanding a UN-endorsed women's conference from 17 to over 100 countries. What did you learn about empowering women and helping them come together, and the ripple effect that made?
Yeah, well, I first want to definitely give credit where credit is due. So it's not my conference; it's Miriam Khan's conference, and she has expanded it from 17 to 100 plus countries. But I have had the honor, the great honor of being involved in the first 3 years very heavily. I think we're at 5 years now. And in the foundational and the formative years, I was really there at the ground level, doing a lot of the organization and seeing how we could give a voice to rural women in like rural Africa who don't, like, we're not talking about accredited, acclaimed speakers, authors, experts, which so often get the keynote stages, right? And that's fine. And we should be learning from those accomplished individuals. But this was something different. This was about giving a voice, not to me, not to Miriam, not to Angela, but to these farmers and caretakers and women who didn't really speak good English in, you know, Southeast Asia and Africa and the Middle East. So it was a very different idea of how to empower women, and it really touched my heart. And it's going to make me cry because at the same time I was being mentored by one of the co-founders of Priceline, you know, bigwig man who has a lot of philanthropists in the NFL. And I brought him onto a meeting to meet Miriam and to meet, you know, the women who were developing this women's conference. And the disparity in funding and pay for, let's say, these hundreds of male NFL players, you know, men who are paid millions of dollars a year to perform a sport versus the hundreds of women that were working together to put together this world-changing conference to feed humanity. Like, not saying sports are bad, I like sports, but when you look at the disparity, all these women were volunteering, nobody's getting paid, funding was scarce. And then you compare it to what we're paying the sports people, it's like, where are our priorities as a society? You know,
that was the word that was coming, priorities.
Like, it made my stomach turn in on itself. That this mentor was essentially asking the women to prove that they were worthy of this, you know, philanthropy, right? As opposed to the women who are feeding the world, I think, need to be the ones giving the leftover money to the sports, right? Like, I just think we need a total reversal of the gender roles. I think we need a total reversal of the way that we see the value of rural and urban, but, you know, of all women, mothers, caretakers, feminine ethics of care as the number one priority and number one value in this world. I think that's really what I learned from the women's conference.
Beautiful. So if every woman listening today could carry one message forward, what would you want it to be?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many messages that could be chosen, and any one of them could be very powerful. For me, the one I would offer is that I would give the affirmation, my intuition is worthy. My intuition is worthy. I am wise. That would be the affirmation. I am wise. Not I am right. I am wise. I have something to offer this conversation. I think so many times men, bless their hearts, a lot of them are beautiful, and I love men, but
we love you, men. Just speaking from experience.
A lot of the times, even if they're not being bad or malicious, I think they just don't understand the feminine wisdom. They don't understand understand the feminine intuition. And so
It's just also the patriarchal society and just the learnings that we've all been, programmed with. So
yeah. So I would just say for women to practice, I'm just going to give you a little game. Like when I discovered the superpower of my intuition, it didn't start with big things like advocating for women. It started with small things like I forgot to turn the stove off before bed. I should do that. Like I'm laying in bed. And if if you forget, if your intuition tells you something and you don't listen, it's like a muscle. You're not exercising that muscle. Oh, I left the keys in the car. They're going to freeze. They're going to be really cold tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to start the car. And so you have to, every time that you get an intuitive hit, you can flex your intuition muscle by listening to your intuitive hit. Flex that muscle, and then you get bigger and bigger intuitive hits, and you start to become more brave. And I want to see women be more brave with their wisdom. We cower and we make ourselves small, oftentimes to please others. And I think that we need to remember our wisdom is big. Our wisdom is so big.
And our worth.
Our wisdom and our worth is big. We're big.
Yes, we are.
We're big.
I love that you said about using it as a muscle. There's a lot of ways to do this, and she's 100% right on that. And it doesn't always come with just that, oh, I left something. It often comes as a guidance or a feeling. And another way to practice it is, if you're walking down the street and you see signs that keep reminding you of something, that is an intuitive hit. It's also try thinking of someone and seeing how long it is before that person appears. That is you actually projecting that. Or sometimes you might notice that you think of somebody unintentionally and then they'll call you. This happens to me all the time. So it's the more that you do tune into this capacity of higher wisdom, of higher knowing. It's not always just seeing things. Your third eye encompasses all of the senses. Maybe you hear things, maybe you know things, right? But it's just that connection to a higher sense. It's your sixth sense because it's actually your sixth chakra, but it's also just that you can see with your eyes closed, basically.
Yeah, those are great examples. And absolutely, the intuition comes in a lot of ways. I totally agree.
Beautiful. Okay, so we are running out of time for today. So Jenny, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your time, from everything from your Earthwalks across America and soon Switzerland, to your advocacy on the global stage. Your voice reminds us that resilience is built step by step, and that when we root into truth, we have the power to transform not only ourselves, but the world around us. And to everyone tuning in, if today's conversation inspired you, I invite you to connect with Jenny Carrington through her writing, speaking, and projects for Earth's stewardship and mental health. And if you'd like to continue your own journey of alignment, empowerment, and healing, follow me, the Chakra Goddess, on Instagram, and you can visit feedyourchakras.ca for more episodes, resources, and upcoming events. And if this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. It means so much to help this message reach more people. And until then, stay rooted, stay radiant, and keep feeding your chakras. Peace, love, and infinite blessings.